Good
Yeah.
morning, Dr. Kumar. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well, Angela. How are you doing?
I am doing fine. Thank you so much for joining me this morning for Conversations with Angela to discuss your case. So, you are a gynecologist, you are a board certified gynecologist, a pelvic surgeon, and a cancer surgeon who was recently sentenced to 20 years in prison. And I am so sad to say that all of the doctors that I've spoken to up until this point have had a very similar experience as yours, something that's been very similar, just as bad, if not worse than some of the others, but they've all been the same, kind of come from the same thing. Although all of the details are not always the same in each case. But it's very sad for me, as a journalist and as a writer, as the person who authored the book, Legalized Extortion, based on what I have learned about what has been happening with doctors, to know that these kinds of things happen and that they're continuing to happen. So this morning, I wanted to just open the floor and allow you to be able to talk about your case um, in whatever way you want, whatever it is that you'd like to share. But I do want to start by asking you one question. Were you aware that the types of targeting that happened to you, were you aware of this happening to other doctors before it happened to you? Did you know that this was a thing? You did
Absolutely
not
not.
know. Wow.
Did not know at all. I had zero clue. It's basically you're working hard. You're trying to get your qualifications, your board certifications, and once that happens, you're busy treating patients and raising your family. It's very, very demanding.
Hmm.
It's kind of like 24/7 type of work. So you don't really pay attention to what is going on. You trust the government, trust the governmental agencies. You just have no reason to question any of that. And once you get targeted, that's when you realize how corrupt the system is, how
Yes,
broken the system is.
sadly.
Yeah.
Well, I can definitely understand how you can kind of be in your own world with doing your work and just doing what you do, as a doctor every day, that you would not necessarily know what all has happened to countless other doctors who've been in the same or similar situations as yours. But I'm just trying to imagine, I'm just trying to put myself in your shoes for a few minutes and just imagine the surprise and the shock and the horror that you must have felt when you realized that this was really a thing, that this was something that not only happened to you, I know we were just talking offline about how you don't kind of know this until it happens to you. You don't realize that. But I'm just trying to imagine what that must have been like for you. Tell me what that felt like for you when you realized, when you got to the point and realized, oh my God, this is really a thing. What were you thinking then?
Yeah, I mean, I was, once I realized that this is a thing and a phenomena, I was just in an absolute shock and a horror that this could be like a systematic thing that they subject physicians to, physicians who have a certain profile, physicians who are successful and are basically doing their job, become easy targets. Physicians targeting physicians. These people, they don't have to worry about getting in a gunfight or a actual fight. It's very, very safe to indict a doctor and to convict them.
Right.
It's said that you can indict a ham sandwich.
Hmm.
And once you get indicted, there's a 99% chance that you will either plead guilty or go to trial. You'll lose a trial.
Hmm.
So those statistics basically just means that only one team wins.
Right.
And wins all the time, uh,
Exactly.
except a few very, very, very rare exceptions.
Yes.
Uh, so it's shocking and it's a very, very depressing.
Yes.
Uh, Thing has to be done about it.
So I want to say for the record, last summer when I was recording the interviews with other doctors, when we were recording the interviews for my documentary last summer, this was before I learned all of the details that I know now. So sometimes when I was interviewing some of the doctors, they would ask me if I knew why this was happening. Why did it seem like nobody wanted Black doctors, or why did it seem like they were only, the only ones who were being picked on? At that time, I did not know. And it was not until after we recorded the interviews that I started learning the details about why this was happening. So, for the record, I do want to say that the attacks on doctors are orchestrated. They began being orchestrated over 40 years ago. They began being orchestrated by the Office of Health and Human Services as a means of one, getting rid of Black doctors, and two, forcing Black doctors to reimburse the government for the Medicaid payments that they paid out to poor and elderly Medicaid patients. So, Black doctors in particular were targeted because in their mind, Black doctors were the ones who saw the bulk of the poor and elderly Medicaid patients. So they felt like they should be the ones to reimburse them. So, as part of that, they had these efforts where they would go and just literally shake doctors down for money. And when they couldn't pay, then they either took a plea or they tried to fight it and then realized, like you were just saying, that they were overcome because, like you said, they got it set up so that only one side wins. So I just want to say that for the record, and it is something that it started that long ago, and I think that because they have been so successful with doing it, it is continuing now to this day, and they're able to come after other doctors. Um, there were other doctors of color that they were targeting around that time as well. It's just that the disproportionate number, of course, were those Black doctors, but they were coming after other doctors, Asian doctors, Hispanic doctors, Middle Eastern doctors, anybody who was not white. So, Dr. Kumar, I want to allow you to share your story with the audience now and let us know what happened. What would you like for us to know? Where are you now in your case? What has happened and where are you now and where are you trying to go?
Yeah. So we are starting the process of appellate appeal. We have filed a notice for appeal. Recently, um, I completed a um, completely unusual um, sentencing process. It was shockingly one-sided. And then right now we filed a notice of appeal, so we will be filing a formal appeal to the appellate court, Sixth Circuit. So that's where the case stands right now. There are several, there's tremendous amount of misinformation about my case. For example, if you read, a bunch of the headlines, some of them will say that, hey, Dr. Kumar performed 15,000 procedures with adulterated devices. He only ordered 200 devices or less than 200 devices. And that is far from the truth. We actually ordered more than 40,000
Mhm,
endometrial biopsy devices
mhm,
for our clinic, and we submitted the purchase records to the court, but has not been picked up by the media. And basically, when you use an endometrial pipette to do an endometrial biopsy, you don't have to use grasper or a forceps.
mhm,
And if you see, probably half of the counts in my case are um from graspers and or biopsy forceps that I did not reuse, did not have to,
mhm,
because our clinic used the endometrial. pipelles. So these are just such obvious omissions that it blows my mind that this is what the government runs with. Also, there's another narrative saying that, oh, 15,000 procedures were done by Dr. Kumar, and that is false. What the prosecutors did was they basically jumbled up junk data. If you look at some of the exhibits that they showed, they did not even have the patient's name or a date of visit. It was just, you know how when you have a large government database,
Hmm.
and certain cells replace themselves with the junk data. So there's like a dot. And so in one of the exhibits, they showed numerous procedures that actually didn't belong to any popular Avenue Clinic patients at all. So they clubbed them in this number to basically artificially inflate this number. Also, this 15,000 number is grossly inflated and very, very misleading. It contains crossover claims, denied claims, rejected claims. We had a third party billing company. I actually had no idea what and when they were billing for. So if one of their staff members submitted, let's say, 100 claims that were erroneous or submitted with wrong date of birth or wrong date of service,
Hmm.
and a month later they were kicked back to them, they resubmitted them, then everything will be recorded and accounted as a procedure
Hmm.
by the government. So they use all these tactics to inflate and grossly exaggerate the claims,
Yes.
and they use that to inflate the what they call it as a loss amount.
Yes.
And the sentencing guidelines depend on the loss amount.
Hmm.
So in my case, the judge awarded the government a loss of $33 million. The actual payments to the clinic were around 4.8 million over a course of 5 years that were distributed amongst 8 providers and probably 40 or so employees. So when you look at the overall reimbursement, it's actually not that high. And if you remember, medical practices have overhead for about 60% or so. So the actual dollar amount that were actually paid to the clinic were minuscule, but they allocated this almost 7 times of the paid amount was allocated as the loss, the money that they actually didn't pay. And I'm still confused as to how this is a loss when they actually didn't pay anything on that money, right?
I'm not surprised to hear that because again, I read this before. I have read this. I know that extrapolate um,
Yeah.
they extrapolate amounts. That's part of what they do. That's part of the game that they do. I know that they tell stories, false stories about things in order
Yes.
to paint the picture the way that they want it to be. It doesn't have to have an ounce of truth in it, and usually it doesn't. But as long as it's something that makes them look good, then that's all that matters. You're not the first doctor that has shared with me that they basically lie in order to get whatever they want,
Yes.
which makes me know that obviously the courts and the government have to be in bed with each other on this. Otherwise, this wouldn't work. Otherwise the courts would say, nope, this is not making sense. This is not right. Or you need to provide some stronger evidence, better evidence, prove what you have. But when you're not forced to do that, if you don't have to, which is ironic because that's what you do in court, um, then you see how they are able to get away with this. But you are not the first doctor that has said that they have um, basically told lies about what was true and what was not true, and whatever it was that made them look better or made them look good or had them owing or receiving the most money, that's the way that it would go in that way. It would go in their favor. Tell us,
See,
Dr. Kumar, what were you sentenced for?
um, it's a great question. I was sentenced for doing my job, and I was very good at doing my job.
Hmm.
And obviously, I did nothing wrong.
Hmm.
I actually helped my patients in a tremendous fashion. Had a large clinic, thousands of patients, and they sentenced me for 20 years um, on false allegations. You know, they say that I'm gonna, go through some points. So I mentioned how they came up with this elusive 15,000 biopsy numbers, which is not accurate. It includes, denied claims, crossover claims, rejected claims, clerical insurance errors that might have been made by a billing company that I don't control. I would just pay them a retainer every month, this company,
Hmm.
and they had all the charge of billing and collections. I was not in the middle of it, and
Right.
yet I was slammed with a loss, factitious loss amount of $33 million. And I mentioned how we had more than 40,000 endometrial sterile, clean biopsy devices in the inventory. Also, another shocking part of my case was that, contrary to what you read in the press, the jury was never actually asked to find actual use of a device on a patient. We demanded that information in a bill of particulars motion, and I sent you a copy of the motion that the government filed. They actually put up a big fight that they are not required to prove actual use of a device. So I am apparently convicted of reusing a single use device when they are not even required to prove the use
Prove
of a
that
device.
you did it.
So it's like it doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
And further, basically, so we had a lot of multi-use devices in our clinic. We actually had one of the largest collections of multi-use hysteroscopes in our clinic. And they were of two types. They were rigid or metallic, that were sterilized in the autoclave. We had two autoclaves in the practice. And then we had a very large contingent of flexible multi-use hysteroscopes in the clinic. Overall, we had more than 35 multi-use hysteroscopes that can be reprocessed and reused thousands of times each. Normally, surgeons will have two or three. I had more than 35. This is another fact that has not been reported in the media because they align their narrative to the governmental releases. And these multi-use devices, we followed the CDC and FDA guidelines to reprocess them. The government took a position that uterus is a sterile cavity, whereas it is not. And the government took a position that whatever goes in the uterus has to be sterile. But if you look at the CDC and the FDA regulations, they state that for semi-critical devices, which hysteroscopes are semi-critical devices, for semi-critical devices, the standard of care is high-level disinfection, and that addition of sterilization does not make any difference to the infection rates. And according to the American Association of Gynecologic Laparoscopists, AAGL, um, you know, basically in outpatient hysteroscopy, high-level disinfection is the standard of care. And we had national experts on our defense team that testified that our clinic either met or exceeded disinfection, sterilization, reprocessing guidelines. So other than that, basically there were numerous irregularities from the government prosecution side, and I'll enumerate a few. So there is a government chart reviewer, Matt McDonald, who the government hired to review my charts for medical necessity. The entire case is based on office hysteroscopy. But Matt McDonald is a hospital-employed gynecologic oncologist and actually does not perform office hysteroscopy.
So
And
how
yet,
would he be the person to review this if that's not what he does?
that's exactly my point, is that how can you function as an expert in a criminal legal case where somebody's freedom is at line when you don't even do that procedure in the office? The fact that you're not doing hysteroscopy in the office means you don't have any regular understanding of the equipment. In fact, he stated multiple times in his report that he does not know what equipment I use and is not knowledgeable about the equipment used in office hysteroscopy. And yet he was allowed to function as an expert.
That makes no sense.
It makes no
None.
sense.
Zero.
And we objected multiple times that, hey, and then also he provided no peer-reviewed literature to support his um, report. His report contained procedures from 2017 when the clinic was not even open yet. That's how fraudulent his report was. Um, and basically, he, included numerous ghost procedures. So procedure actually never happened, but he still put it in his report in a fraudulent fashion because he wanted to increase the number of procedures. And then he kept saying that, oh, dilatation and curettage was done on this date. Dilatation and curettage was done on this date. We never performed a dilation and curettage in the office. So basically, he just made up the report. Uh, but even more shocking part was that he was allowed to do that. Um, then there was a second doctor from the government side. Her name is Dr. Jonah Bandopadhyay. She's a deputy chief medical officer of TennCare in Tennessee, the government Medicaid program. Um, Dr. Bandopadhyay actually does not see patients in the clinic. The last patient she saw in the clinic was more than 5 years ago. So she actually doesn't practice clinical medicine. She's an OBGYN physician, not a GYN oncologist. And she's reviewing my work. She basically met with the state medical board to get a license, and the Tennessee State Medical Board actually recommended that she needs to undergo a re-entry pathway or apply for an administrative license. So here you have a OBGYN physician who's not possessing similar qualifications as me, who actually doesn't see patients. So it's like a chart reviewer on the government payroll, basically reviewing my charts. Because they are on government payroll, they have a direct conflict of interest in supporting the government's positions. Then you had a government witness, Dr. Ben Abdu, who was a former employee of mine, who's actually many years older than me. And they gave him immunity. And he actually testified under oath that the insurance companies are the actual criminals. And he said that he himself reused single-use devices, although I gave him multi-use devices. But he said he elected to reuse single-use devices because he said that they were more comfortable for his patients. Okay. Yet he got a immunity. He got a
I
immunity,
was gonna
and
say,
I
it sounds like he's the only person that was telling the truth. And he got immunity. He was the only one telling the truth. He's definitely telling the truth about insurance companies. What? This,
yes. So
I hope you don't see the smoke that's coming out of my ears. I got smoke coming out of my ears and out the top of my head because this is just so infuriating, and I cannot imagine. I cannot, for the life of me, imagine what you and your attorney must have been thinking when you were sitting in court hearing this ridiculousness. I
yeah,
just, mm,
there's more.
I'm,
So Dr. Ben Abdu testified that insurance companies are the real criminals. Acknowledged reusing single-use devices himself, despite having uh, multi-use devices in his possession and the equipment in his possession. And he said he didn't think that it was a crime. And he said he didn't think that it was unreasonable to do that. And he got immunity and joined a competing group, um, which directly benefits from my clinic being out of the business. And he basically is still happily in practice.
and you're
Um,
sentenced to 20 years in prison.
I'm sentenced to 2 decades
In
in prison.
prison for
Uh,
them accusing you of doing what he said that he was doing. You didn't do it, but he did it, but you're going to prison for it. Okay.
so,
I'm just,
so, so I submitted multiple written protocols where I am directing him on peer-reviewed, proper high-level disinfection protocols for multi-use devices. And multi-use devices are flexible and rigid hysteroscopes. Rigid are metallic, flexible are the ones that are made of Olympus. Um, so I directed him to actually develop a protocol, contribute in developing the protocol. And yet he testifies on the stand that, hey, this protocol is made for single-use devices. And we actually carried him line by line through that protocol. And we said, so it says that you should do a leak test. You don't do leak test for single-use devices. You can't do leak test for single-use devices. And he was asked these questions that, hey, look, the protocol clearly says for rigid and flexible hysteroscopes used in the clinic. Said, yeah, but I think it applied to single-use devices. And yet somehow I'm responsible uh, for that. It just makes no sense. Plus,
none,
remember, he's a board certified physician. He has his own license,
which he gets
uh,
to keep.
which he gets to keep
Hmm.
and is still in practice.
Hmm.
Uh, and, I'm being held responsible for something that I didn't do. Also, so let's keep going.
Can I
So
just
that
ask you, what race is he?
Ben Abdu, I don't know actually.
You don't know? Okay. You don't
Uh-uh.
know. Okay.
Uh, and the FDA testimony and the evidence handling had many shortcomings as well
Hmm.
in the government's case. The court documents indicated that they had a lead reviewer from the FDA come in. Her name is Dr. Paulami Nandi. Um, she basically testified that FDA has never cleared a hysteroscope that can be used with high level disinfection. But if you actually read the instruction for use document of the FDA for Olympus HYF XP, there's the device that I was charged with. It goes numerous times throughout the document that the device can be used with either high level disinfection or sterilization. Either high level disinfection or sterilization. Numerous times.
And she
And
said it didn't.
she said it is wrong. She said, so as a representative of the FDA, um, she said the IFU is wrong. The IFU that is cleared by her own agency is wrong. And when we actually made phone calls, we were told that the IFU's legally binding document, that if a employee of the agency contradicts what is written in the IFU, a physician should always follow the IFU. Which is why I made the statement after the jury verdict that we are on the correct side of the scientific facts, that I followed the scientific facts and what is actually recommended by the FDA. So, so these, flexible devices, we used high-level disinfection that is approved by the FDA and the CDC. So we followed that. We followed that throughout. And you have the FDA lead reviewer that takes the stand and basically just fabricates
Mhm.
um, on the position that is contrary to the document already cleared by her agency and which is binding. Um, and then we learned that she's no longer with the FDA. She has now,
I
after the
wonder
test,
why.
yeah,
They probably heard what she said and
uh,
fired her.
yeah,
For that's what happened to her. They fired her for not knowing what she was talking about. Duh. That's what happened to her. Oh my God. Really
um,
though. Okay, I know you want to
so,
finish. Go ahead. I'm just
so vast majority of the accounts in my case are FDA accounts. Um, so you had the lead reviewer who basically was just fabricating testimony contrary to the FDA documents.
Mhm.
Then you had a FDA special agent who destroyed his phone. He was communicating with witnesses, he was texting them, and we asked him
Really?
to reproduce those text messages. He said, the phone was, quote, reset to the factory settings. So his phone was reset to factory settings. Um,
Really?
and yeah, so my attorney was like, you know, as a special agent, the ABCs of investigation is that you are supposed to preserve evidence. When you text a witness, it's evidence,
Right.
can't destroy it. And to do that as a special agent is pretty shocking. Um, and then there was a key witness that was my former office manager, physician assistant, who was a government witness, disgruntled. I had fired her, and she had been threatening to sue me and extort me out of money. So the government had this witness's phone in their physical possession and never turned that phone to us. And my team was like, this is a big Brady violation that they're supposed to give us all the evidence that they have, and they didn't.
Was it
It
her personal phone or like a office phone, a work phone?
was both.
It was
It
both.
had data
Okay.
both. Yep. So she was constantly communicating with the office staff, with me, myself, with vendors, to purchase devices, to clean them, to train people, all of it. So the government kept her phone in their possession and never turned it over to us. And we applied, we asked for a recess, and we were not given the recess or the access to her phone. Um, and so then the government, kept putting press releases that, oh, dirty devices were used, dirty devices were used. They seized these devices. Some of these devices were actually in trash cans. And they kept them in their possession under filthy conditions for more than a year. And by the time they showed those back to the witnesses in the trial, so remember, these devices were seized on April 16th, 2024. Um, and the trial happened in December 2025. So more than a year, they kept them under filthy conditions
Of
in
course.
the
It
FBI
helps their
possession.
case.
And they were physically broken. Like some devices were like broken into pieces. And I was like, none of these devices are functional. Why are you accusing me of reusing them when the device actually doesn't even work? How can you use a device that doesn't work? And then they say, well, we are not required to prove actual use of a device. I'm like, okay, so you can pick up a device from trash, and charge me with misbranding that there's no label or adulteration that it is under insanitary conditions. Yeah, I can give you that. When I put a device in trash, I think it is unsanitary. I agree with that. You know, things that are in trash are insanitary, you know. Um, so they bypassed the actual requirement of proving the case, which I still find shocking. And then basically, the medical board of Tennessee investigated the entire situation, looked at the pictures, saw the evidence, and said there is no case. They had dismissed the case.
Really?
Uh, yes. So to this day, still, I still have my medical license, my
Okay.
medical license intact. Um,
So how were they able to still sentence you if I'm okay, I'm missing something here.
yeah.
How I guess I'm just not understanding how this works. So the State Board of Tennessee, is that what it's called, you said? Okay.
Tennessee
They
State
said
Medical.
there's no case here, that basically this is a bunch of bullshit, which is what I was going to say, that this is a bunch of bull. And they really haven't proved anything. All they're doing is manufacturing stuff, which is what they're just manufacturing stuff and pulling somebody that you fired. What do you think they're going to say? That they love you and they want to hold a parade for you? Yeah, duh. When you fire somebody, is obviously something wasn't good, something didn't work right. So if you fire them and then somebody goes and gets them to be a witness against you, what do you think they're going to say? They're not going to say they love you and you're their favorite person. So okay, I'm just trying to figure out how we got to the 20 years. If the
Yeah.
state of Tennessee is saying that this is bull, how did we
Yes.
how did we get here?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, again, that's a big question for me as well, right? I cannot figure this out. Um, I never committed a crime, never broke a law, and yet I'm slapped with this massive, massive sentence. Um,
Well, I know that you didn't. I know you, and I know that you didn't, and I believe that you didn't. I know that these cases are rooted in money. It's always rooted in money. I
yeah,
know that doctors who fit a particular profile are targeted. Um, doctors who are minorities, doctors who have solo practices, which is what you had, um, doctors who fit a certain age range. I think it's 45 to 70, 50 to 70, something along that range. And those who were very well off, financially fit. Those are the ones who are targeted.
Yeah.
Does that sound like you?
Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
exactly. So it's what I'm saying is that it doesn't matter, obviously, that you didn't do anything to them. I know it matters to you and everybody else, but to them it doesn't matter. You just fit that profile of somebody that they could easily target and that they could easily extort. So all of it is rooted in money. All of it is rooted in money. Follow the money, follow the money. So it's rooted in money. So I know that. And I want you to keep talking and saying whatever you want to say, whatever you want to tell us about this, but I'm just telling you, based on what I have learned and what I have known about this from working on this for the last 4 years. I didn't just do this when I wrote the book. For 4 years, I have been doing this. This is what I have learned, that it doesn't, you didn't have to have done anything. Of course you didn't. A lot of the doctors who've been targeted hadn't done a thing, didn't do anything wrong. And when you have the guts to be able to fight back and stand up for yourself, then you they really don't like you then. You're just supposed to lay down and take it. So I want you to finish what you were saying because I want to ask you a question from
yeah.
something that happened recently. Did you have anything else that you wanted to share about how we got to where your charges are?
Yeah, no, it's so obviously to me they put some very salacious and ridiculous charges of sexual assault, human trafficking, rape, and there were actually no allegations of any of those heinous activities.
Okay, so none of your patients, how long have you been practicing?
13 years.
13 years. In those 13 years, you've never had not one patient, not one, not even an inkling of a patient that's ever accused you of rape. Not one. Zero.
Zero. Big zero.
A big zero. So in 13 years, nobody, not one patient has ever accused you of rape. But
Correct.
you get targeted, and all of a sudden, you're a rapist and you're a trafficker, human
Yep.
trafficker.
So they said that if they can allege that a procedure was not covered by their billing criteria, that then they can call it a fraudulent procedure, and a fraudulent penetration of female genitalia is rape. So they charged me with rape. My clinic is located in Memphis, so patients come to me from Mississippi, Arkansas all the time. And so they cross borders. So human trafficking, and then hysteroscopy, they call illegal sex acts.
Oh my
For
God. Can
these
we say
charges
the word creative?
yeah, these charges were leveled even for dates that I was actually not in the clinic, and my physician assistants were seeing the patients.
So
Um,
you weren't even seeing, you didn't even actually do the raping because you weren't
I,
there,
I
but you're
was not.
charged with it.
Yes. And so they said I'm also charged with aiding and abetting. So they said, we don't care who did it, but you own the clinic. So basically, we are going to charge you.
This is some creative bullshit, real creative.
Yeah, it's completely unhinged.
It's really creative. And unfortunately and sadly, it reminds me of what we just saw earlier this week in the case with Dr. Fauci. It's about as ridiculous as that. With all of the people that he saved, Now he's a monster. And I'm just saying that because in this way, these two things parallel. I don't know if you thought of, were you thinking of that? Did you see any of his hearing that he had and how they were, berating him and antagonizing him and just the horrible things that they were saying and the tremendous amount of disrespect that they were showing to him? And just making up stuff, just off the rip, just making up stuff about him. And so I'm just saying, listening to you talk and hearing you say this reminds me so much of that. So imagine how he must have been thinking and he must have been feeling too, with all of the work that he did and all the lives that he saved. And this is where I am. I'm here and you're cursing at me in a hearing. I know that this isn't about him. I'm just saying that it just parallels. It just reminds me of that. What it reminds me of is how we see in glaring details in your case and in his case, how the government can make something look and appear any way they want it to. Here
Yes.
they are trying to make this man seem like a monster, like he really did something wrong. And they were calling on him all the time throughout the pandemic. Every day he was having these press conferences and whatnot. So I'm just saying this to say, and I'm making this comparison because I'm saying if they do something like this to Dr. Fauci, a, a renowned and beloved physician all over the world for the work he did, then it just makes it that much easier for them to be able to do this to you and to the next doctor and to the next doctor and to the next doctor. So my point is just that the government is creative, very creative in what they do. And it's unfortunate that they would use that creativity to do so much harm to people like you who worked and served your community and worked to help people and to save lives. I know that you said in the meeting that, not the meeting, the book signing event that we had, you talked about, how the work that you did a lot to help Black women.
Yes.
That this particular type of cancer that you treated was something that was prevalent among Black women, and that
Still,
the your
it
primary,
is, and it keeps going up.
right.
Endom Endometrial cancer is rising rapidly and is affecting Black women disproportionately more.
So you remember this morning when I text you and I asked you, had you ever heard of necropolitics?
Yes.
Does this
Yeah.
remind you of that?
Of course. Of
Yeah.
course.
Had you
Yeah.
thought about that before, that this was something that was intentional, one, to get rid of you, to put you out of practice and to move you aside, and to at simultaneously do exactly what you just said, see an increase in these cases, which would then, of course, inadvertently mean that we would lose more and more Black women.
Yeah.
Did
Um,
you ever make that connection?
Honestly, before your text, I had not because I was just in shock as to why this is happening to me, and
Hmm.
obviously it is going to affect my patients because I had, close to 9,000 patients
Wow,
for a reason.
that's a lot of patience.
A lot of patients. We are open 6 days a week. We were, free access clinic. And obviously, when that type of clinic shuts down, then people are going to
That's
scramble to
a
get the
terrible
care.
harm to the community.
Yes,
That's devastating to a community.
yes. Especially because the cancer keeps rising and is affecting Black women in a disproportionate fashion. And their death rate is more than twice as much as Caucasian women, for example, because they have more fibroid, they have more bleeding, their risk of developing this cancer is higher. So it just doesn't make sense from any angle, so to speak. Um, but I can guarantee you that. The cancer will keep rising. This year, you're going to have more cancer cases than last year. And it's just a sad situation.
It is a very sad situation, Dr. Kumar, and I'm very sorry that this has happened to you. And I'm really outraged as well, especially hearing what you shared about what happened in court. And a lot of that is because
I tell you, the court proceeding, my impression is not about finding the truth, it's about getting a conviction.
that's all that it's about. That's all it's
Yeah.
about. Oh gosh. I was just looking at something. Oh my God, it's in my bag. I was just looking at something before our interview. Um, oh gosh, I was just thinking about a quote that I read that someone said in the documents that I used in the book, and it was about that. It was about that very thing. It's not about finding the facts or finding the truth. Obviously, I mean, we can see that. I mean, if you're telling somebody in a court of law that they don't have to prove something, what?
Yeah.
That makes no, I mean, that's what courts are, facts and evidence. Facts and evidence. Facts and evidence all day long. That's all it is. So if you're saying something or you're presenting something and you can't prove that that's true, then it doesn't carry any weight. But in this
That-
case, they presented all kinds of stuff that had no weight or that had no merit even
Yeah.
people that didn't even have any merit.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to um, what was your attorney thinking and saying? I know he must have
My
been,
attorney, my attorney said that he has never seen this many errors in a trial in his life.
he probably is like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, he basically said, I'm shocked at what is happening in Memphis.
Was your attorney a healthcare law attorney?
Yeah.
He was a healthcare law attorney, so he was versed in this area.
Yes.
And how is he thinking that this case will do on appeal? Has he given you any impression on what he thinks it will be like on appeal? What is that? What is you said, the Sixth Circuit?
Sixth Circuit, he thinks that we should win on appeal because he said there are just so many errors. But obviously, we will have to go through the proceedings and everything. See, the devices that they were accusing me of reusing, um, a lot of these devices have an automatic kill switch, meaning you physically cannot reuse that. The device kills itself. It basically, when you attach the cannula to the monitor, um, you will not be able to see if you're trying to reuse a cannula. It's designed to prevent reuse. So
But
again,
you were using it. Somehow you were able to overcome that to reuse it.
that's what they were
You were
alleging.
using your superhuman powers to be able to do that.
Yeah. Um, and there was no evidence on how I was trying to reuse it when the device is actually not reusable by structure. I don't have a capability to alter the radio frequency chip that is in the device that deactivates it. I'm not an electrical engineer, you know.
Well, I said you had superhuman powers. You forgot about those. You were
That's
using
right.
your superhuman powers to do this.
Um,
So,
but but again, so that fact on one side, and then they're like, oh, we don't need to actually prove use of a device. You follow me? So it's
yes,
like,
I do.
how do you defend yourself when the target keeps shifting?
Dr. Kumar, if you won on appeal, and let's just say that you do, we hope and pray that you do. If you won on appeal, how difficult do you think that it would be for you to reestablish yourself in your community, in the community where you are.
Yeah, it'll be extremely difficult. I mean, you can see that these type of proceedings, they leave a lasting scar
Mhm.
on your mind, on your
Exactly.
psyche. It's not easy to come through from these type of things.
Right. Exactly.
And for me, for my family, I mean, the human toll is just massive.
And I'm just thinking, what if they did it for that reason? What if they did it just to destroy you? You know,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking they present this stupid case with all these ridiculous errors in it. And what if they did this just intentionally, just to destroy you, so that you could not be able to practice again? Do you think it
Yeah.
would be any easier for you if you moved to another city or another state? Do you think it would be as hard if you did that, if you moved somewhere else to practice?
Obviously, it'll be, this type of trauma never really would leave you, I don't think. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I've known the future, you know, but it's hard to imagine that, a lot of it is, even now when I look at the photos of the clinic and all that, it's pretty traumatic, you know. Um, so it's hard, but obviously, human beings are supposed to be resilient and we have to make all the efforts to bounce back.
So, what would bouncing back look like for you? Um, you know that there would be or is a lot of trauma that's associated with this experience for you. If you went on a pill, you still have your license, what else would you do? What else could you do? Because you look like a fairly young man. You don't look like an old man. You don't look like a college kid, but you don't look like an old man either. So you still got some miles on you. So
Yeah.
what else would you do? What else do you think that, how could you take what you have and what would you be able to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. A, uh, a friend and a colleague, Dr. Mary Bowden, suggested something which stuck in my mind. She's like, hey, for this reason, I do not work with the government. I don't, accept any insurance because these type of activities that they do to target people, they can basically completely destroy your life.
Mhm.
And I think there's a lot of truth. And I was like, Mary, you're just so smart and you have the wisdom. I mean, people like me, I mean, we just, you know, keep our head down and keep serving people. I had no, idea that I was treating so many patients on government programs.
Mhm.
I didn't necessarily have a lot of knowledge about insurance and this and that. You're just like, you open a clinic, you hang your shingle, and you
Mhm.
basically, sign all the insurance paperwork,
Mhm.
and start serving people.
And I was going
Uh,
to say, you probably didn't care, at the time because you were probably just more focused on treating patients because that's what you opened the clinic for. That's why you
Totally
wanted to be a doctor was to treat people. So insurance is not what you do. You don't do the insurance and the billing, you treat the patients. So you probably were not as focused on that, like you're saying, you didn't really think about it because, you're doing doctor stuff. You
that's
weren't doing that and thinking of it in that way. But now, of course, you have a whole nother perspective because you see how it works differently, how it's a whole nother thing now. And I'm just wondering that if you were to be successful and you were able to win on appeal, what else would you do? How is, because, of course, anybody would be able to Google this and find out that, that you went through this trial, but everybody that's arrested is not guilty. Everybody that's charged with something is not guilty. Everybody that goes to prison is not guilty. It doesn't mean that you're guilty just because somebody says it. You are obviously. I mean, look at this. Look at the ridiculousness of this case.
yeah.
And I was just wondering, how you could um, use your experiences and use all that you have learned in this whole experience to just kind of move forward in your life, what would you like to see yourself doing?
Yeah. More focus on family,
Mm-hmm.
faith, and then also try to stay away from government insurance
Mm-hmm.
type healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, I think that's very, very important.
Yes, definitely. It
Takes the
definitely.
joy out of the practice, and
Say it
it
again.
it takes the joy out of the
Oh
practice.
yeah, absolutely. It definitely does. And out of all of the doctors that I know of, I only know of two who, were targeted and were able to kind of overcome it and continue to practice. And that is um oh gosh. Her name is escaping me. Dr. Carol, she's a dermatologist. Her last name is escaping me. And Dr. Richard Payne, who's a psychiatrist who works in Massachusetts. Those are the only two that I have known in all of the years that I've been speaking with doctors and those who have been targeted, who have been able to go through what you have gone through or something similar and kind of overcome it to, kind of keep practicing. So it's not impossible. Oops. I'm sorry, did I lose the screen? I moved something there. It's definitely not impossible for you to be able to practice again if that is something that you choose to do. But I'm just saying that I know that it would probably be hard, especially because you're saying, like you are, that there is a lot of trauma that's associated with this. So, is there anything else that you can think of about your case that you want people to know? When people Google your name, what do you want them to know about you aside from this nonsense that they will see that comes up from this targeting? What do you want people to know about you?
Yeah, that I'm a excellent surgeon. I treated my patients well. Literally had one of the largest practices in the state of Tennessee. In 2017, I was ranked number eight, eighth busiest robotic surgeon in the country. And I served my patients very well until I became target of a false prosecution. And here we are. That once the government decides to target you, you don't have a chance. It doesn't matter what the outcome is,
Mhm.
as the process is the punishment. It destroys careers, families, destroys good healthcare. It elevates the cost of healthcare and becomes the reason why people lose trust
Yes,
uh, in the healthcare system.
it definitely is.
A sad situation.
It is very sad. It is very sad. But I'm hoping that things will go your way. I'm glad that you and I finally got a chance to talk. I know we kept missing each other several times before we got a chance to speak today. But I knew from the very first time that we spoke when I was still working on my book that I wanted us to be able to have a conversation with each other and to do a podcast. And I wanted you to have the opportunity to share whatever you wanted to share, about your case and what's going on with you so that people can know who you are, who you really are, and not who somebody is painting a picture that you are. So
Correct.
I thank you for being willing to come on and talk to me about this and to share your story because I like hearing stories and I love collecting stories and hearing what has happened. Yours has been especially difficult to hear um, because it's just bullshit. I don't even know another word to say. I mean, it really is. It's just ridiculous. Um, so yours has been especially hard to hear, but I'm glad that you were able to share it. And I commend you for being able to keep your game face on. I don't know how you are not just seething, every time you talk about this. And I know that you are working to tell as many people as you can about this and that you want people to know your story and know about this. But you are able to do it, maintain your professionalism in doing it. And I commend you for being able to do that because it must be hard to be able to talk about, or hard to talk about, and to, have to keep reliving that something, some kind of grave injustice like this happened to you, and you have to keep talking about it over and over again. So I commend you for being able to do it and to be able to do it with class because that's exactly what you've done with professionalism in class. So
Thank you.
you are welcome. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we close today?
No, this is good. Thank you very much, Angela, for the great work and keep it up.
Well, I
As long
will.
as injustice keeps happening, we want the torch bearers to basically continue to shed light on
Yes,
the issue. That's the
yes.
only way to stop it.
That's the only way. And the more these stories keep coming up, then the more then I just have to keep sharing them because they just keep coming up. So I'm on your side. I'm always on your side. So just know you got an advocate in me. I'm definitely on your side.